Hi, my name is Rachel, and welcome to the Sago Show, where we're exploring the roots and digging deeper into the history behind some of our favorite Filipino dishes and sweets. Today, I'm going to try to make mini versions of 3 classic Filipino pie flavors: Buko Pie, Pineapple Pie, and Egg Pie. Tell me in the comments which pie is your favorite or which one you are most excited to make. First, we'll need to make the pie crusts. So we'll start by adding 2 cups of flour, a 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of salt, and 2 tablespoons of sugar. My friend Yazi informed me that using a cheese grater to grate frozen butter is much easier than the fork method I used in the empanada recipe, so I'm going to try that. While I freeze my fingers trying to do this, let's introduce today's topic, which is the United States' pedagogic invasion of the Philippines and how pies and other American goods were introduced into Philippine cuisine. In 1901, a ship called the USS Thomas set course for Manila, carrying 500 teachers from over 192 universities, including Harvard, Yale, Cornell, University of Michigan, and the University of California, to name a few. These teachers were sent with a mission to found a new public school system in the Philippines. This is occurring after President McKinley had proclaimed about the Philippines that there was nothing left for us to do but to take them all and to educate the Filipino and uplift and civilize and Christianize them. End quote. These teachers, called the Thomasites, taught based on the American model of education. They taught about US heroes and history. They taught in English. And as part of this new education system, the Thomasites taught home economics or domestic science. And that brings us to why I'm making pies. Now that I've grated all of the frozen butter, I'm ready to start combining my dough. Like with our empanada dough from last season, I don't want this dough to get very warm. So I'll start out by combining with a wooden spoon, and I'll start adding tablespoon by tablespoon of ice cold water. Eventually, I'll start using my hands, but I won't touch the dough any more than I need to. Once this is combined, we'll wrap our dough in plastic wrap and put it in the fridge for an hour and a half while we prepare the fillings. I'm going to start with the Buko Pie filling. Here we have thawed young coconut meat from a 16-ounce frozen package of buko. Next, we'll add 2.5 tablespoons of coconut water and then 2.5 tablespoons of evaporated milk. Bring this up to heat while mixing, and then quickly stir in 1.5 tablespoons of cornstarch. Keep stirring this until you find that you get a thick mixture like this. Next, the pineapple filling. I'm adding a cup of crushed pineapple to this saucepan that I've drained from a can, 2 tablespoons of sugar, and then similar to the buko filling, I'm going to just stir this for a few minutes before adding 1 tablespoon of cornstarch, and then mix until it has thickened. Also add a drop of pineapple extract for taste and color, and then the juice from 1/3 of a lemon. I probably should have used more cornstarch here, but unfortunately it's too late to inform the past me of this, so you're gonna see that my pineapple filling isn't as thick as it probably should be. Lastly is the egg pie filling. The filling for this is very similar to the leche flan recipe that I made in my halo-halo recipe, but cut down. We have 2 egg yolks, to which we'll add a 1/2 cup of evaporated milk and a 1/2 cup of sweetened condensed milk. Gently mix this until the yolks are just combined, also adding in zest from 1/2 a lemon. To go back to what I was saying before, a lot of what the Thomasites asserted in domestic science classes was the importance of hygiene and nutritious diet. But this was coded language to indicate that the Filipino homes were dirty and unhygienic, and that they should be eating more canned and US imported fruits, were more nutritious than the fresh indigenous fruits. And here's what's really funny to me, that Thomasites asserted that dairy milk was more nutritious and better than native coconut milk. American vegans, do not come at me. Last step here for our fillings is to put our egg custard-like filling through a cheesecloth to strain it. Now we can get our pie dough out of the fridge because we are ready to roll out our mini crusts. I'm going to be making a dozen mini pies, and 8 of them are going to have tops. So I need to split my dough into 20 portions. Did I mention that I was a math teacher? Once I have my 20 little dough balls, I'm going to roll them in my palm to form a sphere, and then roll them out with my rolling pin before placing them in my greased muffin tin that is getting a lot of use here on the Sago Show. Back to the Thomasites. As a result of the US's invasion by education, Filipino students were being taught to eat with utensils, not with their hands, and to enjoy hot dogs, macaroni salad, and pie. This is very heavy to me. to think about this approach of using education in order to tame people as an alternative to force. And yet I can't help but feel that this was just as violent. The Thomasites, they get to live in our history and our food and our minds rent-free. And I think that that's definitely force. I've spoken about these events and a lot of things on the Sago Show with the past tense. But the truth is that the formal education system still is a threat to Indigenous communities. According to Siaka Kroma, who specializes in Indigenous learning systems, a formal education system fails to put forward Indigenous knowledge as worthwhile subject matter for the learning process. Second, it limits the exposure of children to the local knowledge of their communities. And third, it creates attitudes in children that militate against the acquisition of local knowledge. I've spoken about these events and a lot of events on the Sago Show in the past tense, but the formal education system still is a threat to Indigenous communities. So as a Filipinx American, I think it's really important that we learn about issues that face Indigenous communities in the United States, as well as in the Philippines, really respect Indigenous culture, not appropriate it, and uplift Indigenous voices that need to be heard. Now that our pies are ready to be filled, I'll divide my fillings evenly, 1 row of egg pies, 1 row of piña, and 1 row of buko. I'm also going to create tops for my piña and buko pies and cut off the excess. I'll crimp the crust with a fork and also add some holes or knife marks. Put these in the oven for 350 degrees Fahrenheit. I did these for about 35 minutes for my oven. You might have to adjust, and soon you will have a variety of 12 mini pies. And to critique my own work, I think that the egg ones turned out not so bad. So did the buko, and gosh, the pineapple ones just did not work so well as I alluded to earlier in this video because the filling was so wet, but oh well, I'm not going to re-record this entire video because of that. I do have some notes in the recipe on how to avoid this issue, but there you have it, 3 types of very tasty, flaky mini pies. As I said before, there are ongoing threats to education in Indigenous communities, and in October of 2019, so 1 year before this video came out, the Filipino government had shut down 55 Lumad schools in just 1 month. As of last month, 178 schools have been shut down in total in the past 4 years. And so in this last week of Filipino American History Month, I encourage you, especially if you're Filipinx American, to learn about some of the issues that are facing Indigenous communities and education in those communities. I'm including some links in the description. Lastly, I'd really appreciate if you could take the time to leave me a comment. I love hearing from you all, and you know the rest. Please like, subscribe, and set your notifications so that you can stay plugged in for the next episode next week on The Sago Show. My name's Rachel. Salamat.